hold in my hand a 1995 Cabo 1 or 2 family dwelling code. This is the code book I studied when I first became an inspector in the southeastern United States. Now, common in the southeast, we had 2x4 exterior wall construction on our residential structures. And I don't know where all this started at, but for some reason electricians and builders just kind of always assumed or got it in their heads, and maybe it was some past training and it was poor training, is if we had an NM conductor Romex within an inch and a quarter of the face of the stud, we had to put a stud guard on it. That was wrong. Since the 1990s, the code has said that we have to protect the conductors within an inch and a quarter of the edge of the wood framing. So what we have is we got a lot of folks that have been drilling that hole all the way back to almost the exterior. Now, when we had exteriors that was, wood framing, usually plywood or OSB, then maybe we had brick and everything else going, might have been a little bit more acceptable. But the bottom line is the code is the code. The code says we got to protect those conductors, and also we might ought to be looking at this with our plumbers too. So we've been protecting the conductors pretty good on the interior side of this wood frame construction, but we haven't done such a good job, my fellow tradesmen, in protecting them from the other side. And we got to protect them from the edge of the framing members. So we're going to go over this information here in this brief little video, and I'm going to ask you that if you would, please like and subscribe to this video. Look at our channel, get more in-depth information. We'd like to share all that with you. We're trying to share a little knowledge here. You have a good day. So this is what I'm talking about when I talk about the face of the stud. I think we're all in agreement. Now you see that plywood on the outer side. I'm not sure in this particular house what we got out there, but still we got nails going through there. So we got to protect those conductors on either side. And with a 2x4 construction, that's tough to do. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, the fact of the matter is that back side is not considered face of the stud to most of us, but it is the edge of the framing member. I think we'll all agree on that, and that's what the code says, and it's been saying that since the 1990s. Well, it's a real world out here, right? Maintaining an inch and a quarter setback is not always feasible, especially in tight spaces or with larger holes. When this distance cannot be maintained, the code mandates an alternative form of protection. The cable or raceway must be protected by a steel plate or bushing at least a 1/16 inch thick. Now be careful, in some of these big box stores they're selling stuff that does not meet this 1/16 inch thick requirement, so be careful what you buy. This nail plate protection must be an appropriate length and width to cover the area of the wiring. The same rule applies to notches in wood. If a cable is laid in a notch, it must be protected by a 1/16 inch thick steel plate or notches. There are exceptions. There is no face of the stud language found in the 2023 NEC. Matter of fact, you're not going to find it in any code section going back to the 1990s. We're going to say in 300.4A1, we got to look at this, guys. When installed through board holes or joist rafters or wood stud members, the edge of the hole must be at least an inch and a quarter from the nearest edge of the wood. Ignoring section 300.4 is not just a code violation, it's a safety hazard. Damaged wires hidden behind a wall have been linked to short circuits, shocks, and fires. It's something we've been overlooking as electrical contractors, builders, homeowners, and inspectors. So this is something we need to be looking at and preparing for. It needs to be enforced. Now, this rule in the code has been part of the NEC since 1990, yet enforcement's been inconsistent. Here's probably a couple of good reasons why. First is misinterpretation of the rule. For somehow, and I don't know where this came from, maybe someone can help me out and give me a response in the comments, and I'd appreciate that. But somehow we've always had it in our heads that we're trying to protect the conductors from the face of the framing member. That's not what the code says. People are overlooking that anytime it's within an inch and a quarter of the edge of the stud or the furring strip, if that's the case, it's got to have protection. So for years, as inspectors and builders and electricians, we've been overlooking this. So it's something we need to correct, and the sooner the better, because I'm one of them that's been doing this, and so I fully agree. I really don't think this is being over dramatic. U.S. Fire departments have responded to an estimated 32,000, over 32,000 home fires between 2015 and 2019. That's the latest data I have, and that's from a report that NFPA put out by a guy named Richard Campbell. And it says that fires most often originated in the bedrooms, the attics, and the ceilings, and wall assemblies. And these wall assemblies and concealed spaces are exactly where Section 300.4 applies. And that's where our enforcement falls short. So let's just review a few of these key takeaways for NEC 300.4. And I encourage you to get your copy of the code book out and read this in its entirety and discuss this with everyone in your trade. But always maintain the 1.25 inch setback rule. Now, this isn't going to save everything, because there's always some idiot that uses a 2-inch drywall screw or something like that, but you've got to do the best you can on your side, right? Use the correct nail plates or guards or grommets. Make sure you're getting the correct ones that are 1/16 of an inch thick. And always check the latest edition of your code book, and consult with your authority having jurisdiction, your building official, your inspector. If you're an inspector, talk among your other inspectors. This is a very serious issue. So that wraps up my walk down memory lane with the CABO 1 or 2 family dwelling code, and maybe a misconception in how we've had terminology saying face of the stud when we ought to be saying edge of the stud. So I hope this helps you out. Please like and subscribe to this video, and share it with your friends. Let's have a little discussion about this subject, and let's do all we can to protect everyone in our trades and in our homes. Thank you.